In Tibet, there's a practice that sparks curiosity and even a bit of surprise: polyandry. Simply put, it's when a woman is married to multiple men at the same time. This tradition still exists in some families, and there are even stories of sons-in-law becoming husbands. To understand this custom, it's essential to consider the cultural and historical context. Tibet, located in Central Asia, has a unique cultural heritage. Despite all the changes over time, this type of union hasn't completely disappeared. You can still find communities that uphold this family arrangement, passing it down from one generation to the next. Imagine a setting where, after nightfall, the bride might have a private meeting even with her father-in-law behind closed doors. In this context, the question arises: how does each husband win the wife's favor to stand out from the others? And what drives men to follow young women adorned with necklaces and other jewelry? To answer these questions, it's essential to take a closer look at traditions and customs that have been preserved for generations. Many Asian cultures maintain ancient practices intertwined with family and community life. Cultural values and rituals are passed down from parents to children, shaping behaviors and beliefs over the centuries. Tibet stands out in the heart of Central Asia, bordering countries like India, Myanmar, and Bhutan. There's even a stretch that crosses the Indian state of Sikkim, highlighting the strategic position of this region. When people think of Tibet, many immediately picture its traditional medicine, renowned for using natural ingredients and attracting researchers and tourists interested in ancient healing methods. The development of Tibetan medicine dates back to the 6th century AD, during the formation of the Tibetan state, a time when the population began accumulating knowledge passed down through generations. In this region, Buddhism is the dominant religion. Tibetan monks dedicate years to spiritual practice, living in monasteries and following rituals deeply woven into the local identity. Another notable tradition is serving tea with salt instead of sugar, a surprise for many visitors. Additionally, the yak is one of Tibet's most iconic symbols, a constant presence in both its landscapes and its culture. In Tibet, there's a practice that draws attention both within and beyond the country: polyandry. In this type of marriage, a woman marries multiple men, and it's not uncommon for these husbands to be brothers. While this might seem unusual to many, the tradition remains alive and is deeply rooted in a distant past. To understand why polyandry persists, it's important to consider historical and economic factors. In many parts of Tibet, families face financial challenges, and collective marriage serves as a way to keep assets and resources concentrated within a single household. Instead of dividing land and property among different heirs, brothers stay together under the same roof, sharing responsibilities. This approach helps reduce housing, food, and other living expenses, particularly in areas where survival depends on limited sources of income. Beyond the economic aspect, there's also a strong cultural influence. When young Tibetans reach marriageable age, the challenge of affording a dowry often strains their finances. Faced with limited resources, the most practical solution is for several blood brothers to marry a single bride. This arrangement allows the expenses to be shared, easing the financial burden of marriage. On the wedding night, the eldest brother takes on a prominent role. While all share the status of husband, he is responsible for organizing and making the major decisions within the family. If, for some reason, he cannot have children, another brother steps in to ensure the continuation of the family line, emphasizing the collective nature of this union. One aspect that often surprises those learning about this tradition is that the father-in-law may also spend private moments with the young wife. In Tibet, it's common for women not to oppose marrying multiple husbands, even though this practice might seem unusual elsewhere. This type of union is deeply rooted in local traditions and raises an interesting question. How does a man win a woman's heart when there are so many others vying for her affection? To address this, there's a fundamental rule. All blood brothers share the same status, although the eldest has certain privileges. Even so, each one strives to please the wife, whether through attention or by showing care for the family. In this context, men who work hard and contribute resources to the household are viewed favorably. After marriage, it's typical for everyone to give their best effort to support the home. As a result, competition among the brothers doesn't manifest in open conflicts, but in their dedication to the group's well-being. something that continues to fascinate outsiders observing this tradition. Over time, the wife might show a preference for the husband who proves to be the most hardworking and productive. On the wedding night, she spends private moments with each husband, following an order that starts with the eldest brother and ends with the youngest. In theory, all are treated equally, but in practice, a different dynamic often unfolds. There are cases where the wife favors one husband over the others while completely ignoring another, no matter how much he tries to stand out. The reason is usually straightforward: that husband doesn't contribute financially like the others, or doesn't show genuine interest in supporting the household's needs. These behaviors weigh heavily on her decision, as she values those who are more dedicated to the family's well-being. In some cases, the rejection a man faces can become a serious issue, leading to his expulsion from the family. This practice still happens in certain situations, and when it does, the husband is left without support and often seeks refuge in a monastery. On the other hand, there's a chance for the mother-in-law to step in, suggesting he be given a second chance. Experience shows this solution often works, as it depends on the man's willingness to change and meet the household's needs. When he shows genuine effort, the relationship tends to improve, and harmony within the family can be restored. Some men in Tibet, looking for an escape from domestic issues, end up getting involved in extramarital relationships. While these situations do occur, they carry serious consequences. If a child is born from an affair, the father automatically loses his inheritance rights as outlined by Tibetan law. This risk serves as a reminder of the importance of commitment and responsibility within the household. When people neglect these obligations, they often face family and legal challenges. Tibetan women often wear necklaces made of beads and coins, which are more than just accessories. They are gifts from admirers. This tradition of gifting is common and plays a role in the community's perception of a woman's value. When someone receives many adornments, her standing among others rises. One striking example is the coral necklace, which isn't typically found among the region's usual jewelry. It's an item brought from outside Tibet, making it especially significant for the woman who wears it. This distinction not only makes her stand out but often attracts new suitors. Overall, Tibet is known for its rich traditions and customs passed down through generations. Marriage relationships in particular may seem unusual to outsiders, but hold deeply rooted significance for Tibetans.